How are we gonna get this? All right. Okay. Let's take a look. If anyone is here. We're gonna go. Hello. How's everybody doing? Looking to see when people pop up. We're gonna put it on over here. We're gonna go. All right. Looks like I am the only one here. What else? Man, I'm looking rough. All right. Just me, isn't it? Put that there so we can see any chats. Anyone here? If you are, just go ahead and say something. Go ahead and say hello. Let's turn that down because we're going to end up getting feedback. All right, here. Whenever you come on in, just say something in the chat. Oh man, my marker is already going dead. Last time we had a lot more people show up. What do we got? Hey, we have 3 people. So say hi. Man, can you guys even read that? No, you cannot. My markers are done. That's no good. How do you get a marker to work and get it to start doing a little more? Yeah, so far this one, it's on its last leg. Okay, we got a couple people in the room. My name is Justin Madison. It's good to see you all. And today we're going to be talking about cycles. We're in a series called Reality Mapping. Reality Mapping is just hanging out, talking together, trying to figure out what is this world that we're in and how we can make sense of it to work in it better and to be able to have the effects we want, to be able to do the things that are good, pursue truth, be a part of the purpose of the universe, whatever you want to say. So, cycles. What are cycles? Last time we talked about the first one was your North Star. The North Star was truth. The second one we did was terrain features like boundaries and so on. We talked about size of the universe, etc. So, moving on from there, what we're going to end up talking about is the cycles within those boundaries. Because here's what you got to realize: we live in an existence where things are never in a static state. And we don't just progress linear like a straight line and a graph. We actually progress in a wave function through reality. We have summer, winter, fall, spring. You've got different things like the Bible verse. There is a time for all things. There's a time for peace, time for war, time for fun, time for sadness, etc., etc. That comes from the Bible. There's many others. And what is it? The Kabbalion, they talk about a pendulum that swings back and forth, that there are these different temperaments for humans and in time. These temperaments might be political, they might be economic, and or they just might be different weather in our environment. Some people say there's global warming, some say there's not. There's been ice ages, there's been warm periods, etc. But what does that mean to us? So there's this idea that there's the macro principles and there are the micro principles in the universe, meaning because everything is in a fractal pattern, it's a repeating system, Fibonacci sequences, all these things, where being built on a low level, it goes out into the universe. Like, have you ever seen like a picture of the universe, like hyper expanded out? It kind of looks like a tree and or a bunch of neurons, kind of. It's kind of like that. Complexity systems, they follow the same patterns. Rivers flow in certain ways, but cycles are both a part of the macro part of the universe, where you have, let's say, a star. A star starts out scattered dust, collects, compresses, turns into a star. Star expands, pushes out some of its material, loses stability, collapses, either big bangs or a supernova, and or turns into a black hole, starts all over again. Now, if you take that and then you go into our lives, you could push it into the idea that, you start young, you grow, and you go through different periods of life. First, you're just like a learner, and then you become a producer. And then when you're a producer in life, you then later become a consumer. You consume the harvest of whatever your fruits of your labors were, your retirement, and then you have your period of your life where you reflect on all of your memories, and then you end up, no longer being around. So that all being said, there's a lot of cycles that you want to be aware of. And because there are some things in life that are inaccessible, there are things that you cannot do in a certain period of a cycle. Like, for example, say you're and I are going through a hard economic time. Well, that's not the time to be splurging. Let's say that, jobs are scarce, there's not a lot of money going around, things like that. You should have been prepared, right? You should have at least set something back. But in those times, you're going to have to cut back. You're going to have to work harder, not go on the vacations, and you're going to have to end up becoming a stronger person in those periods, those winters. Now, inversely, there are times that are good. And there are times, like harvest season, where if you've been working hard and you have done things in life that have caused you to be successful, you then should take the time to go and enjoy it, right? Why else are we doing all of these things in life, working hard, etc., if it's not for some form of enjoyment or for some form of abundance or generosity? Generosity to others and generosity to yourself. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, think of yourself as like the third person. You have to take care of yourself. And just like you would say to a friend, you've been working hard, you've been doing all these things, you need to go on a vacation, you need to go, relax, unwind, recharge. That same friend would say the same thing to you, and you have to treat yourself in that way in those times. So, a bigger picture I want to get to is kind of there's this idea of cycles within history and within economics, where you have good times make, you know, weak men. Weak men make hard times, and hard times create strong men, and then it circles back. That all being said, you need to know what time you are in. Okay. Good books, The Fourth Turning by Strauss and some other guy. They did a lot of this. They did it with economic data, they did it with demographic data, etc. Here's a hard time: the Great Depression. 1929 stock market crash. By 1932, I think it was, the Great Depression was declared. America, 25% unemployment in the country. In that time, you probably should have been working as hard as you could to reestablish and to create a life for yourself. Educating yourself, not focusing on partying, not focusing on going on leisurely vacations or going to museums and all this stuff. Those are good for you. If you have an opportunity, that's, you should do it. But in those periods of time in history, that's when you need to start innovating. And that's good because those hard times will make people think, they'll like, man, we messed this up, or the last generation messed this up. And what was happening is not good enough. Now we're going to have to come up with new ways. The Great Depression, that's when things like Corvette was invented, the cars. You had a lot of other inventions. I think like air conditioning started becoming a thing at the time. Um, I mean, a lot of advancements in air travel, etc. There was a ton, and also fertilizers. Fertilizers were a big one. Um, was it Cyclone A? It was a way to pull nitrogen and put it in the soil. All these things happened immediately after that hard time period, and we got advancements. But you don't want to go through such a hard time that you completely collapse and you aren't able to remain stable enough to be able to, tweak everything. So those are good. What time are we in now? Are we in spring, summer, fall, winter, whatever? Well, historically, if you book like 10,000 years of human history, this is booming. We have this last 200 years, it's just been a rocket ship. In fact, we even invented rocket ships. This has been one of the most crazy times of human history when you really back out. Think about it. I mean, it was for the longest time, humans were farmers for most of what we consider, humans. Before that, it was like Paleolithic, whatever. That was a whole nother thing. Let's not get into that. The farmer agricultural societies, maybe a little bit of trading. It was you woke up, you went outside, you fed the animals, you tended the crops, you pulled weeds, and then everyone was doing maintenance jobs related to those things, like being a blacksmith, being a glass maker, being some type of tinker, making like, little like tools type things. That was life, and it was everybody, which wasn't bad. I mean, it was, in some ways, there's a lot of good things about it for human development, but there wasn't a lot of progress. Right now, we've been booming, and we're getting to a point where in human history, AI is becoming a thing, hyper efficiencies and a lot of stuff. I'm not saying it's the cure all for everything that's going on in the world. It's not going to be the like miracle invention, but it will change things a lot. And it will end up taking a lot of jobs. It's going to happen. It's already happening. It's happening with clerical jobs, anything heavily paperwork involved, like at hospitals, insurance, estimating for different projects like roofing and things like that. Um, we're on the tail end of a boom cycle that's been going on for like 200 years. Now, that's not to say the rest of your life you won't somewhat experience that, but because of things like the Cantillon effect and global economics and people all being connected at the hip globally, we become very centralized, where everything is kind of ran off the same systems. And these same systems that we're all a part of, on time delivery, um, oil, manufacturing done in other countries and then just shipped around the world, it leads to a very unstable system. It's not decentralized. A centralized system, one point, right? It's like a black hole. It's very strong. It draws everything in. It's very powerful. And that black hole can do a lot, but it will implode on itself. And then what happens is it does some type of explosion outwards because it can't remain stable, right? That's a macro example of this, or a supernova, whatever. A decentralized system where you have like dot, 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 and they're all connected. This would be a little more like the agricultural systems that there used to be. in the world because for a lot of periods of time, every country handled all of their own manufacturing, all of their own economics, more or less. And if one went down, then you know you would end up just having other countries to rely on. We had some comments there. You should trim your beard down. Yeah, probably. I need to end up doing it, but I've been pretty busy. And then we have W Man's Z8V. He said hi, hello there, hello to you too. But anyway, decentralized systems. If one dot in the chain goes out, right, you still have all these other things to rely on. That's probably what we'll transition back into, but it's going to take a period of collapse in order for that to happen. Now, is that going to happen tomorrow? No. Is it going to happen in 6 months? No. Is it going to happen in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Maybe. Maybe it begins. You got to realize big things take time to move. You have like a big cargo ship, right? It's not like a speedboat. A speedboat, you crank the wheel and you do a complete turn, you can almost flip the boat over. It can turn so fast. A cargo ship, you turn the wheel all the way over, and then you're like, why is the boat not turning? It takes time for that rudder all the way in the back to start shifting the ship. It could take a couple minutes before you even begin turning. That's why the Titanic ended up hitting those icebergs, right? We're in a big boat in human history right now. So anyway, these cycles, though, they can tell you what to do. Right now, you need to take and build your wealth as best you can because you've never, I mean, if, in a lot of ways, had more opportunity than now. You can do so many different things. You don't have to just do what your father did. Like if he was a blacksmith or a carpenter, you can go do your own thing. You can go get educated and all this stuff. And you can make money in so many different ways, right? I would say with all of this, right now, I'm just going to kind of cut a little ahead. There is one or two centralized systems that are not doing as well. They're on the downslope. Is the college education system. They are becoming oversaturated, over centralized, over sterilized in the curriculums they're teaching, and you won't be able to take much with it and do anything effectively as there's change because that's all going to be outdated information for the new systems that are coming in, like the AI and whatnot. Um, so cycles also, what you need to think about when you are trying to navigate, map out this reality is if you have to figure out, are you in the middle of a cycle or you're at the beginning, the tail end, right? Like back in, let's do a smaller one, early 1900s. If you would have gotten to the oil business back then, you would have been at the beginning of it and you could have made tons of money. Look at, was it Carnegie and all these other guys? They were the first movers. They made a ton of money. Andrew Carnegie, I think it was like equivalent wealth. He would have been like a multi-trillionaire nowadays. But that all being said, nowadays, good luck trying to become an oil baron. You couldn't do it. It'd be like you or me. Like I just tell you, like go start an oil company. Okay, you can't. You can't do it because you need massive amount of funds and backing. There's already so many oil refineries and drilling and all that stuff. Most of the oil has already been found, and the competition, these essentially monopolies of oil companies, they've gotten it so efficient. The price is so low, you couldn't do a startup to do like an oil company. So you have to realize where you are in a cycle. And I know I'm making money a big thing here right now. It's one of the easiest to grasp for cycles is economics and finance and all that stuff because it's easy to map out. But you also have spiritual cycles, right? This is a big one. If you look at the Old Testament in the Bible, you have the Hebrews, Israelites, whatever. They'd be in like the land of Egypt and they're slaves, and it's awful. And they get persecuted, all these things, and then they go into a cycle of being in the wilderness where they go and find God. That's where you find God is in the wilderness or in nature for 40 years. And then after that 40 years of getting more spiritually tapped in, they then go start a boom cycle. So with the spiritual aspects, it's much like an individual where you have to go through refinement periods, right? So you have a piece of metal or a piece of slag. Like I try to, how do I draw a lump of gold? Gold would be like, I don't know, I guess you just say like a bar of gold. Try to do a little 3D bar of gold. And then we're going to say gold because that's about the best I can do for right now. That bar of gold, in order to get purified to become better, starts out very dirty. You dig it out of the earth, and then you have to go and you have to chip off all the impurities, and then you throw it in a fire. You refine it, right? You let all the impurities bubble up to the top. You clean them off. You cool the gold down. You let it rest, and then you reheat it, and then you burn off all the other impurities again until it's refined into 9999% gold or whatever. That's your life too. This is big. And this is kind of sad, but it's what it is. It should be very happy. In life, you will never, ever, ever have that straight line we talked about in the beginning of progress or whatever. Your life is going to go like this. It's going to be in waves, right? You're going to go, I'm born and I'm learning, I'm getting educated, I'm going up and up and up and everything, and then kids bully me, and then I'm the kid who's made fun of, and I end up being put in a toilet with my head, and then you go, but then I get confidence because I start going to the gym, and then the girls like me, and I end up becoming a popular guy, and then all of a sudden the girl breaks up with me, and the girl then breaks my heart, and I go into depression, and my grades slip, and then I get recollected, and then I focus on my school, and I go and I get accepted into a college, and then everything's great there, but I'm back at the bottom of the totem pole. And then I graduate, life's good, and everyone's high fiving me, and then I go into a job, and you get the idea. It cycles, you're getting refined. Here is how you deal with it. When things are good and going well, you need to have a calm, more clear perspective in life. You need to be collected. You need to be someone who is enjoying and appreciating what's going good, gratitude, give generously in those times because it's good for your mind, it's good for your soul. And you need to be thinking, this will not last forever, right? And that's not to jinx yourself, that's not to whatever. And that's not to say that you're going to go and crash down into like being a homeless person under a bridge who's doing drugs. It's just to say that it's not going to stay as nice and as happy as it is right now. Because if you set your expectations that things will always get completely better and good forever, it's going to hurt a lot more when you go on the downswing, right? So that being said, you set aside, you prepare yourself, you know that the problems are going to happen, and you try to flatten that curve as much as you can as far as when you're going in that cycle. Hopefully it's mostly an upward one. Maybe some of you guys get more of like your cycle is more flatter, or maybe some people it's like, ooh, rocket shit. And when you're in the good, you want to be like the reserved leader politician who's like more of a, I don't know, um, an Obama or something. And then when times are rough and things are hard, you have to be the war general. You have to motivate. You have to be tough. You have to be a little bit like unhinged, and you have to do things that are a little bit more like reckless so that you can actually push through. When you're going into a major conflict or event as a general, and it's a new war like World War II or something like that, um, you don't want, and you're trying to take on a big enemy, you do not want to be the reserved, like, garrison general. You want to be the hard charging Eisenhower who tries new tactics and does ballsy things and tries to charge against the enemy. And it's not as, politically correct and organized and all these things. But as you end up getting through that, you'd have to switch back in life into being the more, ambassador type, or like, accountant with your life, so on. So that being said, this whole cycles thing, if you are aware of it, you can prepare for it and you can flatten out those bottoms. And, you know, in some ways you could say too, is you don't want to spend too much time on the high either. That's going to sound silly. You'd be like, well, why not? Why not just stay at the high like forever? Why not just do like parabolic curve? Well, here's the thing. You're trying to make progress, progress towards the higher goal, moving forward in time. The flame that burns brightest burns quickest. If you can know that when you're at a real high and you're like, maybe I should pull back and put a little more pressure on myself. Maybe I should go into the gym and work a little harder at these times. Not sabotaging yourself, but to prepare. Because if you can flatten out that little swivel, so it's not as crazy, you'll have more of an even life and you'll be able to actually not have as much of a risk of a exploding plane crash that ends up putting you into the dirt and then you're done, unrecoverable. This is what I would say about cycles is that here's a good who's heard of Solomon's ring? Anyone heard this story about King Solomon's famous ring that he had? We only got, it looks like just me is here in the lobby right now, but whoever ends up watching this later, we'll go into it. So King Solomon, he said, I wanted a ring that can make me happy when I am sad and sad when I am too happy. And he went to one of his servants and he said, I need you to find me this ring. And this guy was perplexed. He's like, I don't know what this guy wants. So he's like, okay, yes, my lord, I'll go out. And he looks, he goes to all the jewelers around. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have anything like this. I got a gold ring, I got a silver ring. What do you want? And he ended up searching and searching. And he goes back to King Solomon. He says, Lord, I have not found this ring that you want, but I am going to keep searching. And so he ends up in his day-to-day thing looking around and he tells one day a jeweler his what he wants. And the jeweler sits back and he goes, I think I have just the thing. Come back next week and I'll have it for you. So the servant goes back to the jeweler and he gets a box and he says, this is what you are looking for. And so excited, the jeweler ends up running back to the palace of King Solomon. And he says, my lord, my lord. And King Solomon's at a big party that's being thrown. He has all of his wives there, people, other royalty from other countries. And he goes, my servant's here. He must be coming to give me the ring that I asked for. Come on over, join the party. Let me see what it is that you found for us. And he comes and hands him this box with the ring. And when Solomon opens it, it's very beautiful. And he picks it up looking like an ordinary ring. And he notices on the ring an inscription on one side. And it says, this too shall pass. And at this moment, Solomon became somewhat somber being at a party, realizing that this moment was just one moment and that he would end up having other struggles in the future. But it's kind of a warm type feeling because at the same time, when you go into the hard times in life, you'll have to realize that this too shall pass. So you can go and, I think people make these rings nowadays. It's just kind of a funny thing. But this is kind of the perspective I like to take when it comes to cycles. Is it's just things are going to happen. There's going to be hard economic times. Look at my generation, 2001 dot-com bust. My dad got fired. 2008 real estate collapse. My dad got fired. 2018, not as well known. There was a drop in the housing market. Those are the bad, but then there's been booms in between. There was a couple times, 2016, it was starting to look really good. 2018, 2019, and even in between and all that stuff. 2001, my dad got fired, and we ended up getting kicked into low-income apartments. But then, we ended up getting into a nice house, and we ended up moving into suburbs later on. I think it was like 2006, and things were good. But then this time they were more prepared and they were more diligent with their money. And 2008 hit, we he got fired again, but this time he took a business route and made his own money, right? And we barely held on to our house. And I remember looking down the street left and right in my neighborhood, and almost every single house had a foreclosure sign on it. And it was because he took a little bit of time to prepare for the next wave. But we got through it, and then things got a little better again. It's just life, right? And so the lesson is in these cycles, no matter what it is, relationships, money, education, I mean, spirituality, you have to take it for what it is and know it's not forever when it's bad, and just keep a calm presence of faith. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will take care of itself. God says that He loves the sparrows so much, and then how much more would He love you, right? And then so at the peaks, look at the story of who was it? Joseph and the Pharaoh. He was the interpreter of dreams, and he said he saw the seven fat calves, and he ended up um, then seeing them all die of disease and all these things. But he advised the Pharaoh, take this time that is good and set aside for the times that are bad that are going to come. So that's really all for today with cycles and in life. And when you're someone who is at the top and prepares for the bads, on think of how the vast majority of people are not going to take that time in those prepared cycles, or those good times, to prepare for the bottoms, and you are not going to go as low as they, and you're going to get the upswing to going back up faster, right, in life, and you are going to like rocket ship up to the next level. So take your lumps where you get them. Whenever times are hard, don't just sit there and think it's the end of the world. Think about how this too shall pass. Okay, that's a good place to start. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a good one. Before I go, do I have any questions? Does anyone have any questions at all? I'm not seeing anything. Well, if not, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for coming. All right, bye.